are talking Project Gemini, or at least that is the English translation of this Russian movie. Now, Russia might be a little bit of a controversial subject in 2022, but in regards to their movies, I have actually quite enjoyed the majority of Russian films I have watched of late. They all tend to be kind of quite serious, with reasonable production value, and I've enjoyed them, a vast majority of them. So let's talk Project Gemini. Now, this movie is very reminiscent of the original Alien movie, along with its kind of successor, so to speak, Prometheus and Alien Covenant. So the movie takes place at some point in the future where there has been a virus which has wiped out the majority of vegetation on the planet, and therefore affecting oxygen levels, and is up to a group of scientists and astronauts and whatnot to try and fly to a different planet and terraform it with this device that has been discovered from an unknown alien species. Now, when they're there, things start to go wrong, as there may well be some type of presence, some type of alien entity that may well be somewhat kind of malicious. Well, what will happen? You'll have to watch the movie and find out. So let's discuss what I think works with Project Gemini. As with a lot of these Russian movies, they do have a reasonable production value, and this one is no different. There's quite a lot of kind of CGI, but it's done to a pretty good standard. I mean, having watched a lot of kind of international movies for the channel, I do think, for example, the CGI that's coming out of Russia compared to, say, China, it seems to be a little better for the most part of the films I've seen anyway. And that's also true of this movie, albeit it's not like a real CGI fest, but when we do see stuff, it's to a good standard. But the production value is very good. The sets look kind of quite impressive. The costuming, the alien design, albeit it is clearly influenced by H.R. Geiger and the original alien design here. And the whole kind of movie, as I say, is reminiscent of the the Alien franchise as a whole. But nonetheless, the production design is pretty good. And story-wise, I think the movie has an interesting twist, which I obviously won't spoil for you. But suffice to say, again, it will kind of, although it's not exactly the same as anything from the Alien franchise, it's something which is, you can see born out of it, so to speak. But I do think it's an interesting twist. I don't think it was particularly handled well, to be honest with you. It's a little contrived and convenient at times. But nonetheless, I did still thought I appreciated the twist. It does kind of make sense in a kind of a roundabout kind of sort of way. And there are some kind of exciting moments within the movie as well. The movie, I feel, is trying to be somewhat of a cerebral film. I don't know if it really fully succeeds on that, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. But nonetheless, there's an idea here to have some theological issues kind of discussed, and the meaning of life and where it all began and things like this. So there is an element here where I feel the movie's trying to be somewhat kind of a more thoughtful kind of movie rather than just a straight kind of action film. But what doesn't work, the biggest issue for me by a long way, is the real lack of characterization of this movie, of the characters in the movie. Now, I've seen a particular cut of the movie which is about an hour and 40 minutes. This may well be an edited down version of the film that was originally made in Russia, I don't know. But the version I have seen, which is the one that's presented to the Western audiences, was really lacking in regards to characters. Now, when we're kind of on this spacecraft, where we could get to this mystery planet, it's really hard to know who's who. Not just because the characterization is so poor, you really don't feel you get to know any of the characters. They're all just kind of generic people. There's one guy who's kind of, I suppose, our main sort of character, and towards the end I feel he kind of stands out a little bit, but for a while there, it's just everyone is just kind of blending in together. But the way they are dressed as well, that they all have very kind of, they all have uniforms, and when they're kind of going out and they're kind of the planet, they're always all wearing these breathing masks, and you just can't tell who's who. So, the actual aesthetics of the film make it very hard for kind of you to differentiate characters, but it's not helped by the actual characterization of these people are so poor to begin with. So you really don't buy into any of the characters. The movie is full of techno-babble. And it's the vast majority of the running time seems to be people discussing technobabble or looking at kind of equipment, plugging things in, or looking over a desk and things like this. This is why, I mean, it has this kind of like this attempt at being somewhat cerebral, but when you kind of factor in the massive coincidences that seem to kind of happen in this movie, you really can't say it's a particularly kind of thoughtful movie, because it's just, you know, the way it kind of lines up with people that are there and things like this, it just seems so convenient that you really can't say that, oh, this is such, you know, a really kind of highbrow movie, but it really isn't, because it has these like schlocky conveniences in, you know, mixed in with all the kind of like the, you know, the rambling about different equipment and things like that. I have to say, I actually thought the creature was on screen less than I would have liked. You know, the movie tries to hide it and, you know, build up the tension, but I feel it kind of maybe, you know, it kind of does a little bit too much of that to kind of like really, you're spending too much time with these people who are just talking about a load of crap, basically, who you don't care about because they have done the work and the characters, so it just comes across as kind of dull, to be brutally honest. The acting isn't great. Now, I did see this dubbed version, but even the physical acting I didn't think was particularly kind of strong, and the dubbing was awful. So I won't, you know, cast shade on the actors for the dialogue and the kind of the spoken acting, because it was an overdub. But even the physical acting I didn't think was particularly kind of strong here, and the English dub of this movie, of the version that I watched, was particularly kind of horribly dubbed, with everyone speaking in very kind of monotone voices. Again, really not helping with these kind of individual characteristics and things like that. And the movie is so derivative of the Alien franchise. It really is. You just feel like this is a proper kind of like inspired by, you know, slash rip-off, you want to say. It just feels like it's owing a little bit too much to that kind of franchise as a whole. Not just the original movie, but the entirety of the franchise. But it is it's a high production value. You know, the effects are fairly good, and there are some good ideas in there. I don't think it's terrible, but it is a below average film for me. I'm going to give this one a 4 out of 10. Have you seen it? What did you think of it? Leave me a comment, and I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.